Hey! Drake's camp looks completely rattled right now. Jay-Z just dropped a fresh freestyle, and the reaction has sent shockwaves through the rap world. New details are starting to surface about how Drake is taking it behind the scenes, and everything points to this turning into an even bigger story before it settles down. What's already clear is that this moment has people talking everywhere. The energy around Jay-Z's latest verse is massive, and it's putting Drake and his supporters in a very uncomfortable spotlight. Instead of a small back and forth, this is starting to feel like the kind of clash that keeps escalating, with every response making the situation more intense. Before we keep going, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and show some love if you want more updates like this. Here's why the pressure is building so fast. Drake and his fan base are not just dealing with any artist. They're up against one of the most respected and technically gifted rappers ever. That alone changes the entire mood. When an artist with that kind of legacy steps into the conversation, people pay attention in a different way, and every line gets picked apart. Because of that, there's already a visible effort to shape the story early. It looks like Drake's side is trying to stay ahead of whatever might come next and control the public reaction before the narrative fully locks in. Meanwhile, the online chatter is speeding up by the minute, and everyone is watching to see what happens next. This could all end up meaning far more than people expected. Right now, after this new Jay-Z freestyle, the mood across hip-hop feels completely shaken. Jay delivered the kind of lyrical performance people are already calling rare, and the reaction has thrown the rap world into chaos.
Naturally, the responses started fast. Dame Dash was one of the first to jump out in public and take shots at Jay-Z almost immediately. Still, if you thought that was the end of the fallout, there is a lot more unfolding. Another major development has already surfaced because the Drake camp has now made its position known. We're starting to see how they plan to respond, how they intend to move, and how they want to handle being targeted by someone many view as the Michael Jordan of rap. At this point, it feels like the groundwork could be forming for another all-time lyrical showdown involving Drake, one that might leave a major mark on the culture. That may sound dramatic, but the tension really has reached that level. More importantly, Team Drake appears fully aware of what's at stake. They know the pressure is real, and they also know they cannot afford to come out of another high-profile rap battle looking defeated. What makes this moment especially significant is that the reaction we're seeing now does not look random, it feels calculated. Every move, every statement, and every bit of positioning seems tied to a bigger strategy as this response begins to take shape. Will that kind of run really control hip-hop for the next year? At this pace, probably not. What's coming now feels more like a hard reset, especially for Drake, because the response in motion makes one thing impossible to ignore. In rap, words matter. Every line carries weight, and every public move comes with consequences. For a while, there seemed to be this strange belief that anything could be said, any move could be made, and nothing would come back around. No rules, no pressure, no fallout. That illusion is starting to crack. More than anything, that shift shows up in the way Drake's Iceman album is being viewed.
Here's where it gets messy. The project pushes this wide-reaching revenge energy, taking shots in multiple directions and framing itself like a major comeback statement after the beef. Yet at the same time, Drake brings back the very person behind the album that originally sparked the conflict and treats it like a victory lap. Meanwhile, he takes completely different positions with others who were also on the opposing side. That contrast is hard to miss. Because of that, the whole formula starts to look shaky. The forced alliances, the carefully arranged friendships, the features that feel more obligatory than organic, all of that seems like it's losing its grip. Viewers can see the pattern now, and once that happens, the effect starts to fade. The energy is changing. The major players are active again, and the era of easy, consequence-free moves doesn't look like it's going to hold much longer. This needs to end, and fast. As for Drake, he built a whole project around the energy of the Giannis record and beyond. But Iceman runs on one thing more than anything else: shots, tension, and quiet digs aimed in every direction. Jay-Z in particular catches a huge share of it. Across 4, maybe even 5 tracks, his name and presence are repeatedly targeted, and that estimate may actually be generous. Those jabs have become the driving force behind Drake's approach here, powering the album's tone from start to finish. Now, a hard reality is closing in. Whether he sees it yet or not, Drake is stepping into a situation
where there may be no clean way out. Once you take aim at the biggest names, consequences follow. That is the lesson waiting for him now.
Jay-Z appears ready to hold him to every line, every implication, every bold statement. Understandably, there seems to be real anxiety about letting things reach that stage. Olio, meanwhile, looks focused on slowing everything down. The strategy seems clear. Buy time, stretch the moment, and keep the clock running as long as possible. At the same time, that internal memo from the camp paints a revealing picture. It shows how they are trying to manage the fallout, shape the response, and weaken Jay's push before it gains more momentum. Suddenly, the bigger plan starts to make sense. That expensive dinner was not just a dinner. It served a purpose. This is exactly what it was meant to set up. All that maneuvering finally makes sense for DJ Akademiks. He looks fully locked in again, and right now, Team Drake seems to want him in the spotlight. With one of OVO's biggest figures leading the charge, a fresh message and a new playbook started circulating about how Drake's side plans to respond to Jay-Z. The mood is clear: push back hard, challenge everyone involved, and shut down what they see as a running narrative. Akademiks even framed his role in sports terms, comparing himself to Bill Belichick guiding Tom Brady, basically saying he's helping Drake navigate this moment from the sidelines, like a strategist calling the plays. Sure, there are other angles people could joke about or turn into petty commentary, but that's not really necessary. Sometimes one image says more than a long speech ever could, and in this case, a picture of Kendrick Lamar seems to capture the point without another word. Now, if anyone still believes Jay-Z's freestyle didn't move the conversation, it may be time to look closer at what's actually happening. For those who celebrated early because the numbers seem to land in their favor, this is where the bigger picture comes in. Charts can create a moment. Cultural presence creates something much larger.
That's the real point being made here. What's unfolding now is being presented as more than stats, more than temporary wins, and more than online noise. It's being framed as influence that reaches beyond the scoreboard. And if that shift continues, Akademiks may not stay in the coach role for long. Here's the reality with Drake. He isn't about to let a loyal mouthpiece make decisions for him. The pattern is already out in the open. You can see the angle, the messaging, and the storyline they seem ready to push in order to change the conversation. At the center of it all is a very clear move. The idea appears to be to brush off Jay-Z's shots, carry themselves as if they're operating on a higher level, and suggest that Drake has no reason to engage with Hov or prove anything at all. That's the image they want to sell. Still, that surface-level framing misses the bigger issue entirely. What really matters is what this approach reveals. Once you strip away the spin, the message becomes much harder to ignore. Some Drake supporters may not want to hear it, but the implications are pretty obvious. Look at the history. After Drake came out on the losing end of what many saw as the defining rap clash of the late 2010s against Pusha T, and then took another major public loss in the massive showdown with Kendrick Lamar 2 years ago, the response now seems less about competition and more about protection. Instead of stepping directly into the moment, the play looks like damage control. The people around Drake, including voices like Akademiks and others tied to OVO, appear focused on building a shield around him. Rather than let him face the challenge head-on, the strategy seems designed to insulate him, manage perception, and keep him from another direct lyrical test.
He's being pushed to keep his distance from Jay-Z. The strategy is pretty obvious too. Instead of openly admitting Jay holds the stronger legacy, or stepping back with respect for the culture, the competition, and the art itself, they take a different route entirely. Rather than meet him head-on, they try to make Hov look irrelevant, like he somehow sits beneath them. That same attitude shows up in the way this is being presented to fans. A lot of Drake supporters, especially the ones still hoping to avoid another rough stretch like 2024 and 2025, are being sold a version of the story that just doesn't line up with reality. What's really happening is spin. Viewers are being nudged into dismissing Jay-Z, a figure many see as the Michael Jordan of rap, as if he's someone not worth paying attention to. That's where the desperation starts to show. It feels less like confidence and more like a calculated attempt to redirect the conversation. Clout clearly plays a role here, but according to Akademiks, there may be an even larger angle behind it. There's supposedly a deeper theory attached to all of this, and that's something to unpack separately. Still, the most striking part is how this rhetoric has come full circle. The fact that this conversation is even happening now says a lot. In a strange way, it ends up reinforcing exactly why Jay-Z moved the way he did in the first place. Everything starts with one simple question. Why did Jay-Z come at Drake so directly? The answer is bigger than one line or one moment. In hip-hop, there are standards, boundaries, and a certain code that serious artists are expected to understand.
From this view, the issue is that Drake and others around him have ignored those unwritten rules for a long time.
What makes this so striking is that stepping into conflict with a figure as respected as Jay-Z is never casual. That kind of response does not appear out of nowhere. Instead, it feels like the result of a long chain of moves, decisions, and public moments that gradually pushed Drake to this point. Just when many people thought that chapter was over, he finds himself pulled right back into another major showdown. Now, the situation has come full circle. This time, he is being measured against one of the most powerful names the genre has ever produced, and the argument being made is that he created that outcome himself. Meanwhile, supporters are still trying to soften the blow. Some commentators, including Akademiks, along with fans pushing Iceman, continue to frame the moment in a way that avoids the obvious. Even so, acting shocked that Jay-Z would throw a shot here does not really hold up. At a certain point, surprise stops feeling genuine. If someone wants to defend Drake, that is their choice. But pretending there was no clear path leading to this moment asks the audience to ignore everything that came before it. It's hard to act shocked that Jay-Z responded when the tension had been building for so long. Trying to brush it off afterward doesn't really work when the shots had already been coming his way again and again. Take someone like Akademiks, for example. Even the media pages tied to that world seemed determined to keep the conflict alive. Post after post pushed the rivalry harder, stirred the conversation further, and kept directing attention back at Jay-Z. At one point, even Beyoncé was dragged into the discussion, which only made the whole thing feel more unnecessary.
What makes it worse is that it didn't stop with music. Jay's family got pulled into the noise too, and that crossed the line for a lot of people watching. There was also the decision to give Kanye a platform during one of his lowest public moments, which many saw as adding even more negativity around Jay-Z. With all of that in the background, calling Jay-Z's response desperate feels completely off base. After everything that had been said, promoted, and amplified, a reaction was always going to come. Honestly, this kind of behavior keeps making the culture look weaker. It starts to seem less about genuine love for hip-hop and more about chasing drama, numbers, gossip, and scoreboards. That isn't what made the genre matter in the first place. At some point, the obsession with turning everything into a spectacle has to end. Let it go. Quit forcing the issue and stop trying to squeeze more attention out of something that has already gone too far. Some people are stepping back because they're afraid of what this could lead to and how the final outcome might look. That hesitation is becoming impossible to ignore. Right now, everything is unfolding in plain sight, and the bigger picture is starting to come together piece by piece. Plenty of familiar names have joined the conversation, including Nicki Minaj, Dame Dash, Tory Lanez, and many more. As this has spread, even the names ROC Nation and Jay-Z have taken on a completely different meaning in the public eye. More and more, they've been framed as some kind of hidden force operating behind the scenes. That image didn't appear out of nowhere. It grew from public accusations, personal frustration, and stories pushed by people trying to explain their own setbacks by placing blame on someone bigger than themselves. In those versions of events, Jay-Z is repeatedly cast as the central figure, almost like a mastermind controlling everything from the shadows.
Over time, that storyline has been repeated so often that it started producing even more speculation. One claim led to another, and then another, until the original narrative became buried under layers of distortion. What began as questionable allegations slowly turned into a much larger myth. Now, the result is clear. Those repeated stories have deeply shaped how many people see Jay-Z. Fair or not, his public image has been altered by years of rumors, exaggerations, and narratives built on a shaky foundation. Younger fans are often the easiest to sway, especially when they're hearing claims without any real context about Jay's history or reputation. Think about the full picture here. On one side, there were already accusations that people around Drake helped drive a major PR wave aimed at discrediting and tearing down someone many see as the Michael Jordan of rap. On the other side, Drake himself dropped an album packed with shots. And on the lead single, the biggest song in the country at the time, he devoted an entire verse to Jay-Z. In that verse, he tied Jay to the Super Bowl conversation and framed him as someone losing his grip, someone being overtaken. Taken together, that is not a small move. It's a direct public statement delivered at the highest level on the hottest record in the world. Before Jay Floyd reversed that line, Drake was essentially presenting Jay as washed up and no longer at the top.
Yet the wild part is this: all of that happened, and we're still only talking about the surface. None of this even begins to cover the larger timeline. Go back to 2024. After Kendrick Lamar was announced for the Super Bowl halftime show, the story started to stretch much further than one verse, one album, or one chart-topping moment. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about lyrics anymore. It was about influence, positioning, and how these major names were being framed in real time.
That move reportedly traced back to Jay-Z, and with Roc Nation's influence around the NFL, Drake seemed to send a pointed message by posting that photo of Solange sitting in the car after the well-known moment when she challenged Jay. Looking at Drake's history, a pattern starts to stand out. Many of the clashes around him don't seem random at all. Some commentators may dress it up with wild theories, but the simpler answer is in the music itself. If you pay attention to what these artists are saying and how they frame their beliefs and approach, the message becomes much clearer. Kendrick Lamar even hints at that kind of behavior on Element, describing someone who stirs things up and then ducks the fallout. From that perspective, Drake often comes across as the person who sparks the tension, speaks the loudest, and pushes these rivalries into the spotlight. Yet once the pressure turns real and the moment arrives to back up the talk, the tone appears to shift. Suddenly, the energy changes, excuses start showing up, the competition no longer seems necessary. The same battle that was once invited now feels beneath discussion. Even figures like Jay-Z get casually dismissed, which only makes the whole thing feel more surreal. At a certain point, it becomes less about music and more about image, strategy, and who can control the narrative. That's why these back-and-forth moments keep drawing so much attention. They reveal more than the songs alone ever could. At this point, the whole strategy seems focused on protecting Drake's image and keeping his world from falling apart. Everyone knows the response would look completely different if the opponent were someone on the level of Meek Mill. In that situation, Drake would likely step forward with total confidence and a much more aggressive presence.
What makes this interesting is who he appears to be avoiding: Jay-Z. No matter how it gets framed publicly, the feeling is that Drake wants no part of that matchup. Privately, he probably understands exactly why, even if he would never say it out loud. When you really examine it, the pressure around this moment could hardly be bigger. If Drake were truly the elite battle-ready rapper that many of his supporters believed him to be, the opportunity here would be enormous. Imagine the scenario for a second. After taking a loss to Kendrick Lamar, if he somehow returned by beating Jay-Z in a rap battle, it would completely reshape the conversation around his career. More than that, it could alter the direction of the genre itself and give him the kind of comeback story people talk about for years. Still, that outcome feels almost impossible. That's exactly the point. Instead of stepping into the conflict, the people around this situation seem more interested in avoiding it altogether while trying to spin that silence into its own storyline. The refusal to engage is becoming part of the message, and that says a lot. It's basically the rap version of storming off the court once the score stops going your way, choosing safe hypotheticals instead of stepping into a real test when you already know the odds are against you. That's the energy Drake and his team seem to be leading with right now. Every signal coming from their side suggests they aren't easing up at all. They're digging in even harder. To a lot of people, that only reinforces the same criticism that has followed them for years. The image being projected looks less like confidence and more like confirmation of what doubters have been saying since Kendrick Lamar challenged that narrative, and even earlier when Pusha T did the same. Those old questions about authenticity never really disappeared, and moments like this make them impossible to ignore.
Now add Jay-Z entering the picture and look at how quickly this response began. If this is the tone on the very first night, it naturally raises a bigger question. Just how uneasy are they? Because if the pressure is already this visible, what happens as the spotlight grows even brighter? Meanwhile, the conversations around Kendrick keep expanding. His place in the culture, his impact, and his long-term legacy are being debated in larger and larger spaces. While that discussion gains momentum, Drake appears to be reacting in a way that feels driven less by control and more by urgency. Numbers can show popularity, reach, and commercial power. What they can't automatically secure is the one thing every artist wants when the history books are written: unquestioned respect. What Kendrick and Jay possess can't be manufactured, and no army of bots can give Drake that. Their influence sits in a different category entirely, the kind reserved for icons like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant in sports. These are the rare figures who can tilt the culture with a single freestyle.
one surprise appearance, or even a brief moment on stage. That level of respect, presence, and impact may be exactly what keeps pulling Drake back into the cycle. More than anything, that seems to be the one form of recognition he has always chased from both Kendrick and Jay. Still, even if that moment never comes, and even if Drake continues presenting these Iceman disses as his defining response in this chapter, a lot of the conversation may already be beside the point. The real issue is that he could already be stuck too far in. It feels unmistakable now. Jay-Z appears to be operating on a level that's almost unsettling. By 2026, there's a real case that he could be the top rapper alive, the sharpest writer, the strongest wordsmith, and the fiercest competitor in the game.
Only a tiny handful of names even belong in that same conversation. Kendrick Lamar is clearly one of them. Andre 3000 might be too, if he chooses to step back into that arena. Outside of that, the gap starts to look enormous, and that's what makes this whole situation feel so intense. His presence is so powerful, it feels like everything has to move around him. Kendrick Lamar is coming off a stretch that many people would call one of the most impressive runs rap has ever seen. Even with that standard in mind, Jay belongs in the same elite discussion because the skill he's showing right now is impossible to ignore. Right now, he sounds sharper than ever. The writing feels tighter, the ideas hit harder, and the focus is on another level. That's exactly why this moment stands out. If he's opening a new chapter with this kind of precision, the rest of the year could get very interesting very fast. What makes it even more intriguing is the sense that this isn't the full reveal. The Roots picnic appearance and that freestyle already sent a shock through the culture and grabbed the attention of the entire rap world. Still, it doesn't come across like the main event. It feels more like the opening signal, the first move in a much bigger plan. There's clearly momentum building, and nobody seems fully sure where it ends. That mystery is part of what makes this so compelling. Every move now feels loaded with possibility. Another detail worth watching is Megan Thee Stallion mentioning his name on a dream feature list for her Act 3 project. That might be nothing, or it could be a subtle hint at what's ahead. If Jay does link up with Meg, it's safe to assume he understands exactly how major that moment could be.
Look at what's happening now. Every rumor, every jab, every comment pushed by Drake, Tory, Nicki, certain academics, and the rest of the online crowd seems to have created this moment. Jay's direction suddenly feels obvious. If people insist on casting him as the bad guy, he may be ready to step into that role completely. Keep in mind, Jay-Z had publicly backed away from rap conflict as recently as March. Reaching this point doesn't seem like something he planned long in advance. It feels more like a sharp turn, a recent decision brought on by everything that's been building around him. That likely means at least some of these new shots, especially the ones aimed at Drake, were written only recently. After all, in that interview, he still appeared willing to give him some level of respect. That window now seems closed. At this stage, Hov sounds angry, focused, and fully aware of what he believes is really going on behind the scenes. More importantly, he seems to know exactly how he wants to respond. There's still a sense that this could have been avoided, that the people involved understood exactly what it would mean to challenge Jay-Z head-on and deal with the fallout of defending that choice in public. Now, though, the tone has shifted. This no longer feels like playful back and forth or internet noise. It feels like the point of no return. And once it gets there, nobody involved can pretend they didn't see it coming. At this stage, anyone stepping into Jay-Z's orbit needs to understand one thing. This doesn't end when they decide it does. It ends when he decides it's finished, when he closes the chapter, and when he chooses to walk away. That's the reality starting to come into focus, especially if Drake is the one pushing the situation further. Actions bring consequences, and this moment seems to be proving that in real time.
Sure, landing a #1 track and a #1 album off taking shots at Jay-Z might look like a huge win on the surface. Success like that grabs headlines fast. Still, it also comes with pressure, attention, and the possibility of a serious response from someone with Jay-Z's experience and presence. That's the part people may be learning now. Looking at everything happening, it really does feel like the Akademiks side and the Drake camp are starting to unravel under the weight of this moment. There's a bigger question here too. What exactly does Drake's role in all of this say about where the situation is headed? The whole thing feels larger than a typical rap feud now. It's turning into a major turning point,
and people are reading every move closely. As for the verse itself, it's hard not to be stunned by it. Each replay seems to reveal something new. The more I hear it, the more it sounds like Jay-Z is performing at an absurdly high level, even compared with the standard he already set for himself. From a technical standpoint, from the writing, from the delivery, this may be some of the strongest rapping we've heard from him. That's what makes this feel so unreal. Thanks for making it all the way here. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and show it some love. Your support matters more than I can say, and I truly appreciate every bit of it. Now, if you're still here and want the full story, there's more to uncover. The next video breaks down exactly why this Jay-Z freestyle stood out, why it sparked so much conversation, and how its impact reached far beyond Drake to everyone who was mentioned. More importantly, it looks at what this moment could mean going forward and the standard it may be setting from here on out. There's a reason people are reacting so strongly, and the bigger picture is even more interesting than it first seems. You won't want to miss what comes next, so tap the suggested video and keep watching.